it's going to start to play again. Isn't that lovely? Hello, welcome to episode 31 of the Blindsided podcast. Today we're going to talk about syndrome, and syndrome as is a collection of signs and symptoms that can be an imposter syndrome, something that makes us feel fearful or not good enough or we don't fit. It's not something we should pursue. Why did I ever think this way? And we retreat and back away from and then beat ourselves usually. My name is Charlie Collins. I am the co-host here at the Blindsided podcast, and I am the co-founder of the Thriving Blind Academy. And today we will also talk about the last letter in Thriver, the Thriver formula a little bit, but more to come.
Yay, can't wait for that. Love the Thriver formula. Hi, everyone. My name is Brenda Hayden. I am founder of timefor10.com. We're an emotional awareness, emotional intelligence coaching service. We help people challenge their conditioned thinking to get at the exact nature of their disturbances. And we'd love for you to go watch our free psychology videos at timefor10 on YouTube. And I'm excited to be here to talk about imposter syndrome. Guilty as charged sometimes.
So, Brenda, kind of laid a foundation because it's like imposter. I remember hearing that, I don't know, years ago, and it made no sense to me. I'm like, I don't understand imposter. I mean, I know what an imposter is, like somebody that shows up with, I don't know, like somebody that pretends they're Elvis. Yeah, you're an imposter. You're not really Elvis. So give us a good overview of this.
Yeah. So imposter syndrome really is this underlying feeling that you're a fraud. And I know that sounds extreme, but it really isn't. It's almost like you achieve a goal, or you have an accomplishment, or you do something that's really good and you don't take the credit for it. In fact, you resist taking the credit for it. Like when, I'll give you a really good example. And hi, Jenny. Jenny's here. Yay. So I'll give you a good example and this was a recent one, when I founded the coaching service that I have right now. I actually had come home from a meeting. I sat down at the computer and I typed in time for 10 and the domain name was available, right? And so when people started saying, oh, this is great, you did a great job, how did you come up with it? I'm like, oh, the universe gave it to me. That's a perfect example of imposter syndrome. I was unwilling to recognize my own talent, my own achievement, my own worth in founding and even coming up with the name and moving forward with developing the platform that is now thriving and doing really well. So guilty as charged. That's why I said that. That's a really good example of imposter syndrome. And that really has to do with my conditioned thinking, the belief system that I was raised with, that I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. And if that's running in the background in my conditioned brain, it's not like in my consciousness. That's like my reflective thinking, my reactive thinking says, no, I didn't do this. This was just luck, or this just came from the universe. It doesn't have to do with my work. So that's a quick summary. So why don't we introduce Jenny? I love Jenny. She is a beautiful human being. I met her at Columbia University. We're both students there. And I've learned a lot from what she posts on TikTok. She has a great TikTok channel. So why don't you introduce yourself, Jen?
Hi, morning.
Good morning.
Yay. I love Brenda too. So just so we're clear, this is a mutual thing. So my name is Jenny Rebecca, and I am the founder of Rebecca Spirit, which is a spiritual coaching and tarot reading and all the mystical stuff company that I don't know, I've been doing now 10 years. Next year will be my 10-year anniversary. And I am what the world calls a working witch. I go out and do things and help people. And I think that magical spiritual lifestyle is what helps people have the best view on their own life, and that they can use all of those tools to help themselves. And so like our little catchphrase is tools for your toolbox.
That's cool because in the Thriver formula, the T stands for tools, and we often talk about the tools in your toolbox.
There you go.
Yeah.
See
So
that?
great.
There's the universe.
Yeah. So Brenda, I like that. There was, excuse me, whatever you were coughing with earlier, you transferred it to me through the internet. Um, I like that because if I had accomplished something, and somebody said like good job, my internal thought was no it wasn't. It just somehow it was luck. It wasn't me. I mean, I don't know how to do this stuff or that stuff or this. And and it was like compliments were very difficult. I never once thought like maybe that skill of doing that you worked on and then you had a result, you earned that, you worked towards it. But as you came out with that result, and then maybe another person, community, whatever, recognized it and wanted to appreciate it, that sent me backwards. Like, no, don't do that. Just pretend you don't even see it. I don't know. It was weird. I never, I never really appreciated compliments, and and I didn't give them that often because I thought it wasn't fair. So many people do so many great things because they're just lucky. They were born with all these gifts. Like Michael Jordan was just born to be that. No, he worked his tail off, and he he got results.
Mhm. So you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to hear from Jenny on imposter syndrome because this was her topic for this podcast today. So go for it.
So yeah, exactly what you said, where you do the work, you put things in, you figure things out, you study it, you read it, it's your passion, you're an expert. Period, flat out. One of my mentors, Ryan, said that to me. He was when I was talking about coaching and doing different things with sports. I work with kids in sports and doing mental health. And he said, "You are an expert. This is your domain. You have studied this. You know this. You know what you're doing. You've talked to other people. It's yours." And it was one kind of residual effect that I've had about imposter syndrome. I mean, it's very hard when you're working in sort of this world of imagination or spirituality and it's not a concrete thing, right? At SMB, we do study the concrete things behind the magic of it, but it's hard to explain that to the wider world. And so facing imposter syndrome and saying, no, I am what I am. Either you take it or you don't. I don't like, and that's it. And coming to terms with that and agreeing with yourself is the big part, right? It's easy for someone else, like I said to you, Brenda, like you're it. You've got this. There's nothing in there. You are good. You can hear it, but in terms of you accepting it and coming to terms with it for yourself, that you are not an imposter, that you can stand in your own power and say, I've got this. That's the thing that's the big key. That's the big piece when you accept it for yourself.
So, it's funny. We had a conversation about that, you and I. We were talking about ego. And I was arguing with you and I was saying, well, isn't that ego to say I'm an expert? Like I've got this, like I'm good at this, right? Because it seems so foreign to me to own my talent. It seems so foreign to me. And I'll tell a story about my conditioned thinking later. And you said, no, you said ego, when balanced, is a good part of what we have. It's a good part of our makeup. God gave us ego or universe or spirit, whatever it is that's out there, created us with ego for a reason. And Charlie and I were just talking about this before the podcast started. And Charlie said the same thing. Yeah, ego, when balanced with the rest of you, is actually a good thing. And imposter syndrome. I remember Dr. Miller, she's a hero of mine, right? I actually ended up in the Spirituality Mind and Body Institute because I read her book, right? I read her book and I said, I want to learn from that person right there. And when one of the first times I met her, she looked at me, she goes, you're a healer. And I said, I am. Like, that was my response. I am. Like, my big moment, right? Meeting my hero. And that's what I said. Completely unable to get in touch with that, which I've grown a lot and I continue to grow a lot. But this was a big discovery for me to learn that I was carrying this around even now. So yeah, this is something. And I think a lot of people may not even be aware of how much of that may be in them, just like I wasn't.
No. And I this syndrome, this collection of signs, symptoms, and whether it's producing anxiety or fear or constantly comparing, and that's where I sat a lot. Was, gosh, I went to a conference and I finally got the courage and something, an inner prompting, something's telling me there's more. It's already a part of who you are, but you don't have access to it. So let's go somewhere. Let's connect to a spiritual thing. Let's do something and hear this inspiration and all, and then learn some ways to tap into this, something that I could do better with and live more free of this bondage that I had created in me. So, but as soon as I started getting around those people, oh my God, they're smarter than me. They're all successful. They're all best-selling authors and speakers. And oh no, and there's so many of them. Why should I even bother? Because I'm never going to be as good as them. I mean, I play the guitar. And somebody says, you're good on the guitar. I'm like, no, I'm not. Have you watched this guy on YouTube? There's always somebody better. There's, go ahead and compare yourself to nothing. Because I will compare myself into, I'm stuck. I can't move. What's the sense? No use. I don't believe in me. I don't believe it's possible. I mean, I might not be saying that, but the collection is kicking in. These symptoms, these signs that I now have let my lower self start to run the show.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to overcome. And like what Brenda was saying, when you meet somebody like Dr. Miller, you're kind of like, I've got nothing. Then you have to kind of stand in your power and say, but she picked me because she has she's in there deciding who's getting in. And that's not to say that going to our program is the end all, but you can't even try to achieve that goal or that thing, whatever that is, being manager of a store or owning your own store or whatever it is, if you don't first see yourself as being worthy.
Absolutely. Seeing yourself as being worthy. So you started to tap into, Charlie, where does this begin? And one of the ways it begins is when we compare ourselves to somebody else and find ourselves lacking. I remember, this is a good story, Jenny. I was on a podcast with Charlie and I actually did a video on it, if you remember. I was on a podcast with Charlie and his business partner for Thriving Blind Academy. She has an audio book. She has a regular book. She goes around the world or around the country and she speaks, right? And so when it came, they're talking about, because she has a couple of sons who are blind. Charlie is legally blind. Actually, my son is half blind in each eye from a traumatic brain injury. I never talk about it. I should. And so they were talking about the Thriver formula. They were going to talk about that. And I was like, I'm going to let the experts talk about what they know best when it came my turn to share, because I had compared myself to Kristen and I had found myself lacking. And it was a lie when I said that, I'm going to let the experts share. I was frightened and I was feeling, I was experiencing imposter syndrome. So I immediately self-corrected during the podcast. And then I did a video on it and I put right in red letters, that was a lie when I said that, because we have to talk about this stuff, right? We have to get it up and out. We have to raise awareness, because if you're not even aware that you're comparing yourself and then making decisions based on how you find yourself less worthy, if we're not aware of that, then, we don't move forward. We stay stuck in that.
Brendy, I do need to correct you. You said, these guys, something about experts. We are. and so are you. But comparing is basically when you compare, do you either come out on top or do you come out less than? And obviously it's one of those two. And do you ever compare yourself to somebody and you're equal? No. Why would you compare? I mean, comparing is such an evil. It's not evil, but it's so damaging. And Oh man, I'm a best-selling author. I'm in Jack Canfield's 10th anniversary success principle. I have a story in there. I mean, he has another book called Living the Success Principles. I have a story in that book. I have signed copies. I've been on stage with him. I've spoken in several different countries. I've done my success principle trainings all over. I've been interviewed on all sorts of media and in magazines and Forbes, and I've been on Fox and all these different stations. And I don't want to, somebody's like helping me put a speaker sheet together. I'm like, I don't want to put that out there. That's embarrassing. I don't want it to be about me. And the person's like, they need to know this because they need to know who they're hiring and what they're going to put on their stage in front of their people. They need to trust that they're making the right decision. And I'm like, it's very uncomfortable. But I realized I said, I don't always want to talk about me and my experience, but you've had it, you've overcome, what it was like, what happened, what it's like now is what helps people.
And that's the thing, right? If we don't share that, we feel that way. And then, oh, look at this. Look at all of the things that you have accomplished, which is an amazing list, right? For anybody who's going to want to try.
Yeah.
Right. You know what you left out, Charlie?
No.
Who wrote the foreword to your book?
Jack Canfield.
Jack Canfield did.
And he put a quote on the front that says, this is a chicken soup, long soul type of book or something. Like, come on, buddy. Don't you got something better than chicken soup?
Now you're talking. Now you're talking. So we want to say good morning to the people in the chat. We're so glad that you're watching our podcast this morning. I can't say hi to you all, but hello. So let's talk for a minute about conditioned thinking. Conditioned thinking. And here's a story I wanted to tell. I was in college, right? And I used to run cross country. I started running when I was like 12 years old. I loved it. It really got me out of my head. I needed to run. Let's put it that way. And so I'm in a race, right? And I'm running as fast as I can. It's a cross country race, Fairfield University. And my coach is at it's in a cross country race. It's like 3.2 miles. So I'm 2 miles in, doing great. My coach says, you only have a mile to go. You're in first place. You're in first place. Keep going. I was running like a 6-minute mile or 5. I don't know. I was running really fast. The last mile I ran, it took 9 minutes to run it because he told me I was going to win. He told me I was going to win, and I had no idea what to do with that. Now I'm in college, right? I'm just a kid. And that's a really good example of my conditioned thinking. I had no idea what to do with, oh my gosh, I'm successful. I'm going to win. And I came in third. So let's dive into a little bit about the belief system that comes from our 0 to 7 programming. And after, I know I love doing this because that stuff's running in the background. It's when you're not paying attention. That's what's running the show. And that's the stuff that I believe we need to pay attention to start overcoming imposter syndrome.
Yes, I'm sorry. Sometimes when people share on these podcasts, my brain goes into thinking and then it pauses and it's like, oh, I wanted to noodle on that a little longer. So I just want to go back to conditioned thinking when I was sitting next to a gentleman in a conference, it was 400 and something people. I'm like, so I'm Charlie. He's like, Bob. I don't know his name. I don't remember his accent. But anyway, I said, so what do you do? Oh, I'm an author and I'm a coach. And I'm like, oh God. And he's like, what do you do? I said, oh, at the time, I owned a retail store with government contracts, serving several states, helping thousands of people regain their independence and live with low vision and blindness. But that wasn't enough. So I couldn't compete with him because it's a competition to me. Like, well, I own a little retail store in Connecticut. Next, I don't want to talk to you because you're better than me. And I found out a couple years later, and hey, Bob, I met him at another conference. What's up, man? He's like, oh, man. He goes, I've been working so hard on building that business. And I said, cool. I said, but when I met you, you were successful, all this stuff. He goes, no, I wasn't. I was just getting started. But that's how I wanted to show up, because I wanted to fake it so I could become it. And I followed these principles, and now I am thriving as a speaker and a coach. But when I met you, I didn't have a penny, 2 pennies to rub together. Like, wow, why'd you tell me the real story? Then I wouldn't have compared.
Sorry, that's great. I think that's the thing, right? Like we are, and that conditioning comes from so many different places that we don't realize, and when we start to do embodiment work and we start to think about it, we realize like all of these little things that happen that cause us to hold on to that idea that we're not good enough, and to kind of force us into not succeeding at the thing. Like you were saying, Brenda, you ran a 9-minute, you dropped 3 minutes in your stride, like because someone was supportive of you. Like that conditioning, that scary, the rug is going to get pulled out from underneath of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick, let's go through some of these comments. So, Trish is saying that she forgot about some of your accomplishments, Charlie, and she's glad you shared because you're amazing. And no, I did not go to Fairfield University. That's who we were running against. We have a comment, comparison is damaging. And good morning, Carrie. I love Carrie. She's awesome. Those are our comments right now. Yeah, so, getting comfortable, standing in your power, getting comfortable, saying you're successful. Yes, I'm a healer. I coach people, and I watch the lights go on. I allow universe to flow through me. There's plenty of times when I am giving good advice, I open myself to be a channel, to have universe flow through me. All of those things make me a healer. And I thought it was egocentric to say that I was a healer, but healing is what I love to do. And fortunately, I have a very, very rich background, lots of physical, emotional, all kinds of abuse in my childhood, recovering from drug and alcohol addiction. I have that under my belt. It's just a very rich life that I've had. And those experiences, the worst ones ever, I no longer regret, because I get to use them as tools to guide somebody on a path where they have the opportunity to experience what I've experienced through the healing, which is a life beyond my wildest dreams. And it's just amazing. It's amazing. So, dealing with the leftover remnants of imposter syndrome is what I'm working on now, because I didn't know I had it. So what are some of the ways that we can identify that we have it? Let's talk about that for a minute. How to find the awareness.
What are some of the symptoms?
Yeah.
Well, for me, it would be like, I don't have what it takes to move to the level of somebody that inspires me. That I've read a book, I went to a conference, like, wow, that seems like something we get these inner promptings that pull us in a way, but then we have a conditioned way of saying, nah. So that's one way. Fear. I mean, I'm not good enough. I don't know what to do. I need to know the how, or I can't possibly do it. And anxiety, maybe some stress, anxiety, that feeling of being stuck, which is just these are all like I've created them all. None of them are true. It's like fancied or real. And to me, that's what, and I walk into so picture this, Brenda and Jenny. I picture, I walk into a room. I have limited eyesight, legal blind for all my life, almost since age 13. So anyway, I go into a room. I'm going into conferences, business meetings, places where there's well dressed, smart, lots of chatter, people moving, shaking, making agreements, handshakes, supporting each other, complimenting, helping. And I'm like, I hear buzzing, but I don't see well. So what's wrong with me? I'm an imposter. I don't belong in here. These people have eyesight and they are lucky and they can easily navigate and move through the crowds and move their life forward. But because I have a physical handicap, I really stepped into something I have no business being a part of. And that's a big symptom when that lie comes to me. And it's like, you said it. No, I have I have a track record of how not to live life. And then I did a lot of work. I surrendered. I raised my hand. I admitted complete defeat. I said, I don't get this game of life. Somebody please guide me, help me, and built me back up. And then I started expanding that knowledge and serving at a higher level. And there's no way anyone's going to stop me from doing that. But the only one who would be me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I think one of the best ways of tracking if it's real for you or not is seeing if you are afraid of success. Because that's a big thing of saying to yourself, I'm not worth it. Because why would I succeed? Why should I win? Why should I have the thing? So that fear of success and self-sabotage, then yeah, you know, if you're waiting till 3 o'clock in the morning to write that legal brief because you don't feel like you're worthy to do that, to stand up and defend this person or prosecute this person, that's a big thing, you know. And to both of you, I think as a person who can stand on the outside and see you, you have overcome the thing that most people don't even know that could happen to them, right? We are all one accident, one illness, one something away from not having a full able body experience a um or an experience of life without addiction, depression. We're all just one step away. And so many people don't recognize that. And that's not to live in fear, but it's to say there the accomplishments of people should just be seen as the accomplishments of people. And that it is a beautiful thing to see people work with what they got and succeed and be a blessing to other people who then can achieve because they say, oh, that person's living my story. I can do this too.
Mm. Mm. One of the big symptoms for me that I noticed was saying to myself, Charlie, we've done podcasts on this, I'll be happy when, right? Is when I look at somebody else and I say, if I, and it's not if I like was like this person, because that's not where it's coming from. If I was loved like this person is, right? If I was validated, if I was looked up to, right? It's not even about what they've done to get there. It's what they're getting from being there, right? If I had that, I would be on top of the world. And when I look at it, I mean, that's really the trauma kicking in. That's really the looking on the outside to feel okay on the inside. That's a big symptom for me when I'm grasping for something on the outside to feel okay on the inside. And I remember, doing a video and doing some research on, we're all unique. Everybody comes with their own set of special gifts and talents and strengths and weaknesses aren't bad. Weaknesses are exactly what they're supposed to be. They really are. It balances out the strengths. It's all a perfect package created by the universe, right? And so I'm not supposed to be like the next person I'm looking at. I'm supposed to be me. I'm supposed to be me and just let that kind of flow forward instead of like exerting my will to try and be like anybody else or talk like anybody else or present like you know what I mean? It's just whatever kind of flows in the moment I'm learning how to do and just be okay with that, because that's exactly what I'm supposed to be, is what I am, and just let that flow through.
I'm hearing a lot of Dr. Seuss.
You love Dr. Seuss. The best.
And it's when we're trying to be something that we're not, it's when we are the imposter. Yeah, dummy. No, I'm just talking to me. Which I'm getting better at my loving statements. Anyway, Brenda, I love the 9-minute mile. Wait, I'm gonna win? That means every freaking track meet from this day forward, I gotta win. Forget that. I'm gonna lose, and then they won't put me on a pedestal, and I won't have to perform at that level because my fear of success and failure is gonna kill me. But I'd rather be a failure than high achiever because I'm more comfortable in the oozy. I'm not good enough. I mean, I'm talking about me, but I can relate. I pole vaulted in high school and I did a couple of good ones. And the guy started saying, if you do this, you could become the number one pole vaulter in our school. No, thank you. Because number one in me, first of all, that's a lie. And secondly, that would be too stressful. I couldn't imagine going to another school and somebody being better than me. And then this guy feeling let down, my coach, saying, what happened? You were my guy. You sucked today. I already knew that. So I don't have a fear of success. I have a fear of failure. And Brenda, you said something too. It's like, I'm trying to show up. I want to be like that person. And I don't want to be that person. I was in a train the trainer thing with the Campfield group and all sorts of trainers. It's a very elite group, and he has only a few over the years. And you get into this and you go through a training. And at the end, you get certified. You have to do presentations. They beat on you, and they don't. They help you become better. And I did my preview presentation, and Patty Aubrey was sitting in the audience in the room. She was one of the critics, the feedbackers. And she said, well, Charlie, we don't need another Jack Canfield. We have one. And I'm like, is she talking to me? She's like, you used his slides. You said what he says on stage. And I'm like, I want you to like me, lady. I didn't say that, but I'm like, I'm melting. And she's like, so I know you, and you have what it takes to do this. So why don't you start showing up as your authentic self and stop trying to be Jack Canfield? And walked out of the room. And I wanted to go home. And I did I took her advice and I crushed it at the main presentation. I didn't. The spirit moved me in a way that Jack Canfield came up to me and said, holy, I won't say the word, that was amazing. And I said, can I get that in recording? I'm also a marketer.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing when we realize it, and then we can take ownership of it and change it, right? You can't change what you don't think exists.
Oh, that's profound. You can't change what you don't think exists. Yeah.
Which goes along with, are you willing to notice the obvious?
Yeah.
And you can be curious. We talk about curiosity too. You can be curious about why you're thinking a certain way. That's not for your highest good. Like when those thoughts come in today, I question them. I'm like, That's not true. I mean, I say that a lot. That's not true. But it's that quote that says, if you think you can do it, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. I mean, what you think is what you will create. That's how your reality is created, by what you think and what you believe. So there's some more comments here.
Yeah, I really appreciate that quote from Henry Ford too, Brenda. I use that in all my presentations. I got a picture of them.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and that Ford Motor Company designed the first V8. That was also made me happy.
So, good morning, Carrie. She said, I was taught that we all have gifts from God, and when we discover the gifts within us, we can share them with others. That's beautiful. Trish likes weaknesses are not bad. What's interesting is one of the things we learned from the VIA Institute, Jenny and I, in our Spirituality, Mind, and Body Institute training, was that if you focus on your strengths and you work on improving them, the weaknesses kind of, they get better all on their own. Isn't that amazing? Because Charlie, what do you say all the time? Where our focus goes, energy flows. So if you're focusing on your weaknesses, guess what?
You're weak.
You're weak. Exactly. It's so simple. It's mind-boggling. I believe that everyone has something to share. We can learn from so much from others. We just need to be open. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Good morning. Great stuff. Thank you guys for the comments. So amazing, amazing, amazing.
And I think that, well, you're right too, Brenda, right? Abracadabra. I think what I speak, I create, right?
Yeah.
And that's the big part of it, and when you think about really well-trained athletes, elite athletes, if you watch them, that first second in their mind, you can sort of see that and feel that split second where they see themselves winning.
Yeah. Yeah.
When divers stand there for a second and just breathe, because they see themselves making that splashless dive.
Yeah. So that's the whole fake it till I make it kind of mindset. So, I tell clients a lot of times to ground themselves, and we do a little grounding exercise, and imagine what it is that you want. That's how manifestation works. I mean, Albert Einstein, one of the things he said was, if you want your kids to be successful, read them children's books. If you want your kids to be more successful, read them more children's books. He said, because imagination is way more powerful than knowledge. Albert Einstein said that. Yeah. Dead on, Jenny. Dead on.
I'm more about vision it till you become it. See yourself as success as you work towards that. I mean, I don't see myself as a good driveway asphalter. I never go into that space. There are people that I watch do that, dig out driveways, and then they bring in the gravel and they level everything, and then they bring in the paving box, and then they make a driveway in like 2 hours. And I'm like, that's beyond my comprehension. But that's their expertise. I don't vision it until I become it, because I don't want to be that person. I think the being I was born with. And I think this whole journey I'm on is discovering and then activating and living from and, being in that, because then life just gets so much better. Well, I was living against the grain, trying to become something, maybe more so people said, wow, he's doing well. Because in my mind, I used to think I need to overperform. I need to be this so you don't think what I think you're thinking. But you weren't thinking it all along. You were there to support me. And I'm done with that. Like, oh, I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. This doesn't work. I just don't walk into a, I don't know, whatever type of work. in the Chamber of Commerce and try to play around with them, whatever. You know what I mean? I don't find myself stepping into spaces where it just doesn't resonate with me anymore.
Yeah, like I'm never going to be a runner. I don't breathe right. Even when I was little and thin and all the things, I was not a good runner. I was great at gymnastics, but I wasn't a runner. It's not innate to me. Can I run? Yes. If a bear is going to eat me, I'm going to run. But it's not, I'm not focused on that. And that's not for people to say that they shouldn't try to do those things. It's great if that's what you want to do, but you don't have to be something that you're not. Like Charlie said, you don't have to be, the bricklayer. There are people that do that and they do an amazing job.
So I'm thinking, go ahead, Charlie.
I was just going to say, I was a very good runner when there were blue lights behind me flashing. That's the only time I could run. and running from myself, too. I was 2 times I was a good runner.
So maybe we could wrap it up because we're running out of time with a couple of pointers for people to start becoming aware of imposter syndrome and what to do about it. So just question your thinking. When you tell yourself something negative about yourself, question your thinking and look out for fear. And when you're feeling that, like I feel fear right in my solar plexus between my belly button and my chest. I feel fear right there. It just gets really tight. And when I'm feeling that way, I remember that fear isn't real. It's coming from a very old place. I look at my feet. I stay where my feet are. And I make a decision not to give into the fear and move forward anyway. You should have seen me, Jenny, on this first podcast that we did. I was like, I couldn't even move, but we just kept doing it. So my head was really small and Charlotte was really big. But you just do it,
Yeah.
and you come into your own. It takes practice.
I would say I do this a lot with clients. As behaviorist, I am a behaviorist. And so I tell my clients to give themselves stars or something to track their successes so they can physically see how well they're doing and accept that they are doing the thing.
To me, it's if you're blaming, complaining, rationalize, defending, making excuses, those are all good signs that maybe you're impostering. You're doing what it doesn't align for you, so you're not willing to take responsibility. And then when you step back away, okay, wait a minute. I think I'm trying to become or do or be something that maybe because of the way, my parents wanted me to go to this college, that whole outside of me. And I just take a look within. What energizes me? What guides me? And Brenda, you say, like I like to say, where our attention goes, energy will flow. So if we feel, and I love this because where did that fear come from, Brenda? It came from here. You thought it, and which generated a feeling, which could have activated some past, all the good stuff. But it's like, and then I say, wait, I'm experiencing fear. I kind of want to go down this path of this isn't for me, I'm not good enough and all that, but I'm going to stop that in this moment because I believe in myself and I believe this is possible. Do I know how to do it all perfectly? No, but am I willing to step into it? Maybe make a little mistake or maybe make a little progress. Yes. Let's see how that goes. And then I say, my way of getting through it is I didn't die. Because everything was so big. It's like, I'll die if it's like, I didn't die. Let me try again. And then each little bit of success, and even if we go off course, we come back on. But each little bit of that builds just a little more confident and I get a little more courage to take the next step. And then I look back a year later, it's like, I can't believe I was afraid of that. This is a piece of cake.
Right? Right? So not to focus on the outcome, right?
Right.
Just keep moving forward. That's great. This has been really fun. It was so good to have you on, Jenny.
Thank
Yes,
you guys
thank
for
you.
having me.
Come back anytime.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Oh, let me go down. Sorry, I got so lost in this. I wasn't changing slides, but here's the big one. Please, you know what to do. If you can't see the slide like me, it says like it, subscribe, share, and something else, and a smiley face. So thank you all for attending, and we will see you next Saturday.